Well, I'm Mike Joyce, and I'm happy to say Ed Wool was one of my favorite people in life and somebody I considered a lifelong friend. I met Ed through the music business. I was visiting the Thousand Islands with a friend of mine, and he said, "There's a band downtown, you should go hear." So we went to hear Ed Wool and the Nomads. They were at the O'Brien's Hotel, they called it, and there was a music room out back. And when I went in there and I watched what was going on, it was just unbelievable. This wasn't some ragtag band. I mean, the audience was totally glued on them. The girls were watching all the different guys in the band, and the guys were watching, and I thought, this is unusual. And then I noticed the vocals were all absolutely perfectly in tune. The arrangements that they did on all these songs. I mean, when they would play somebody's record, you could close your eyes. You'd think you were listening to the Beatles. I mean, it was that good. Well, long story short, when the evening was over, I introduced myself to Ed, and I said, "Ed, I'm in the music business, and in production, I'd like to see if I can help you." He said, "Absolutely, let's start." So that's how we started, and I found a picture on my computer today of Ed and the Nomads, and we're at the Holiday Inn with Jack Cox sitting at a table signing his contract for production, and then from there, we were flying down to New York to record at R.C.A. And it went great. I mean, Bob Lifton, who was one of the top engineers on Broadway, he came over to help me to make sure that we got the sound we were looking for. And when we were done, R.C.A. was excited, and they said, "Let's see what we can do." And they worked on it and tried and did what they could in their distribution, and got to the end of that cycle. And I said, maybe that's not the right label. So from there, I said, let's try somebody different. And we went to Diamond Records. And then we did a song called Valerie, which was later covered by the Monkees, figures. It was a Boyce and Hart song that a friend of mine in the radio business said, "Mike, you got to listen to this." And as soon as I heard it, I said, "Oh my God, this would be great for Ed's band." Well, we went from there. Then we went to Cameo Parkway in Philadelphia. And somehow Ed was always doing his part, but I couldn't make the magic happen on the other end. And I finally realized it was time to try something different. And so at that point, I'm running Record on Film. I'm the general manager of what's the #1 music video company in New York. I mean, they were little back then. We did the startup for Sly and the Family Stone out in, we actually filmed it in Oakland, California. And one of the people I worked with was David Rosner in the music publishing business. He was a big client of ours for different artists. And I said, "David, there's a band that I've been working with, and somehow I can't explain why. I can't get them to where they need to be." And I said, "Can you look at it?" So I took him through everything we'd done, played all the different records. He goes, "I get it." I said, "Well, there you go. That's a surprise." He says, "Let's talk to Neil." Well, Neil turned out to be Neil Diamond. And David and Neil worked together for 30 years. And we went to Neil's house. He said, "Bring all the stuff." I brought all the demos, brought the tapes, brought the stuff we had released, brought songs we hadn't released. And Neil said, "I got it." He said, "Okay, what do you want?" He said, "What do you want?" I said, "I don't want anything." I said, "I'm trying to get you to help these people get to the next level." He said, "Okay, Mike." He said, "You have my word on it." He stood up, shook my hands, and he said, "We'll do everything we can to make that happen." And from there, he took him to ABC. He recorded the Wool album, and I'm sure you know the rest of the history. So musically, I mean, Ed was just a very rare person. But as I got to know him more and more, he was even more special as a human being. He was very aware of people around him, very sensitive to other people, not all about me and my ego. That wasn't Ed at all. And I just remember as I got to spend time with him, when I came up in the summers and they would be in Henderson, he and Barb, we'd go places, we'd go to concerts, we'd go to dinner, we'd do things together. And just to hear Ed's stories about what was happening in his life, and as most of you know, when he stopped doing music full time, he really got involved in helping other people. That was his career, was making a difference in people's lives, and he did. And one of the fun things I remember was maybe 2013, 2014, Ed says, "I got an idea for a project. Will you help me on it?" I was down in Lauderdale, and I said, "What is it?" He says, I'm going to Muscle Shoals, Alabama. I'm going to record there. Would you come help me? I said, absolutely. So we went over there. We met Noel Webster, who owned Muscle Shoals recording studio there. And again, with Ed, just another great experience. And Noel said, boy, this guy's really good. I said, I know, I told you that. So I just, wherever you went, I think what impressed me the most is when we started the North Country Music Project, and I helped fund that. And I would tell people about Ed Wool and that, they would instantly come back and tell stories from their life about what a difference it made when they listened to the band, and whether it was this version of the band or the next one. And I was here, and I was in high school, and then we were growing up, and I was working at wherever they were. Ed was part of their life, not just when they were in high school. I mean, for the rest of their life. I mean, it was really unbelievable. So I don't know, I could talk for hours about Ed and stories, and I guess that's why I'm sorry I'm not with you today, because if you're there, you got a lot of great Ed Wool stories too. So Ed, for a celebration of life, I know you're there with him in spirit, and I'm glad I had a chance to just add a little bit to what a great human being you were. And when I get to heaven, the first thing I'm going to do is go find out where you're appearing that night. So looking forward to seeing you in the future. God bless everybody who's there today. Thank you.